Hi, my name is Dave Atkinson, and first of all, thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel, Life on the Strait. This is going to be the first video of many that will go into a remodel project that my wife and I did. Most of it takes place in the 2019-2020 timeframe, but I'm going to go back and begin with when we first saw this property and just bring you from that stage forward. We did a number of smaller improvements to it, and I just want to show you the entire breadth of what we did to improve upon this place. We have been on the road in our motorhome for 2 years, and we were looking for a nest. And my wife stumbled upon this property, and we came out and took a look at it in, I think it was April of 2016. And we ended up making an offer on it on May 1st, and we signed around on June 17th. That's the day we moved here. If you're looking at the photo now, and you can just see from the porch just how beautiful this property is. That is the Olympic mountain range in the background. The property is 5 acres in size. It has a hedge of Leland cypress trees that almost completely surround the property, providing exceptional privacy. It has a nice garden area, and for someone coming back from a trip with a motorhome, 35 feet long, it had a 40 by 40 pole building with the center bay large enough to accommodate the motorhome. Now I'll show you a couple other views that were taken more recently. There's one of the bluff, because the house sits on the bluff, overlooking the Strait of Juan to Fuca. And the bluff is 120 feet roughly above the beach below. So we have a great view, but we have no access to the beach. And the bluff is the kind of bluff that flakes off over time. We've been fortunate, we haven't lost very much of it, but we sit back, the house sits back roughly 160 feet from the bluff. So at least in our immediate future, we don't see much danger from the bluff flaking off. Some more photographs. This shows you the front of the house. It's kind of a L-shaped design. On the left side of the house is the two of the smaller bedrooms. On the right side is the garage. And it's a big garage. You can park 2 cars in there. Well, you can park 4 cars, I'm sorry. One behind the other. And it's tall. And then in the center, there's a deck. And then if you go back, that's the kitchen area and the dining room and all that. Let's see, the next photo would be the back of the house. And again, it has a rear deck on the back. It has a big sunroom that spans most of that rear deck. Then you see the pole building. The previous owners had horses, and they had a paddock. They took the gate, or I should say the fencing, when they left, but there was still the sand and the tarp below it that we'd have to deal with. Again, inside the pole building, there's 3 bays, very spacious, 40 by 40, and then on the back of it, for their horses, they had a place to store they had a stable, they had their tack room for hay, so they had additional space in the back that you could get to. Just some old photographs of inside the house. The entryway when you would come in, and notice the ceiling area. These are 8-foot ceilings because it's a truss construction, but they lowered the ceiling in a lot of places for whatever reason, I don't know. Just made it look smaller when you were inside. But when you came in the entranceway, if you made an immediate right, you go into the kitchen. If you just went straight through, you come into the kind of the combination living room and dining room, and you can see that. The kitchen appliances were most likely original. The house is built in 1989. It was finalized in early 1990. There was a single bathroom and hallway, a small laundry room area, and then in the master bedroom, there was a master bath, cramped inside, only one sink. And then there's 2 smaller bedrooms, one that was used for an office and one for a guest bedroom. The next couple photos show you what the sunroom looked like. And then what remained of the deck, very small deck outside of the dining room sliding glass doors. And there was a stairway that took you down to the grass area. The front of the house, there's a stair that led up to a deck. And the deck it cut off some of the views of the Olympic Mountains just because the small overhang was so low on the deck, and then the beams that held it up just kind of would truncate the view of the mountains if you were inside the kitchen looking out the window. Another photo inside the garage. And in some of the exterior buildings, we had a gazebo that was well used, pretty beat up looking actually. So anyways, that was what we had when we moved here. The next photo is the day we arrived, which was June 17th of 2016. And our motorhome's coming down the driveway, and the place was ours at that time. A beautiful view from the back of the house, looking back and looking over the mountains in the background. Going forward, it was just a wonderful experience to mow the backyard, to see all that. And then if you got close to the bluff and looked out, you could see the beach below and take in some of the mountains as well. Our vehicles would fit perfectly inside that garage. We have a car that was in our other garage, the attached garage to the house, but the pole building would hold the motorhome, our truck, and our mower. So in 2016, we just did a few things to the place at that point. The water had kind of a funky taste to it, so we replaced the water softener with a new type that would also filter out the sulfur as well as the hard minerals. We had a ceiling fan installed in the guest bedroom, and we keyed all the locks, including the barns, so they would all, or the pole building, so they would all take the same key. We updated the electrical panels in the barn and also put outlets for 50 amp plug-ins for the motorhome, so we could plug it in while it was inside the pole building or plug it in from the outside. Our electrician also installed a spotlight, an LED spotlight, on the back corner of the garage, so that would shine out over the backyard. There was one there already, but it wasn't functioning. It was all corroded, and so it was nice to have one that worked. And then he also installed some additional outlets, electrical outlets, inside the sunroom. Because at that point we had brought with us a treadmill, and we just needed a few more outlets for it. In 2017, we kind of came to the conclusion that the house plan wasn't really what we were looking for going forward. So we hired an architect. He's retired now, but he was a well-known architect in the Port Angeles area. And he came out and looked at what we had and designed a remodel based on the entire house. This house has a full basement. It's over 1,700 square feet in the basement. So we wanted to utilize that. So what he was going to do was extend the master's bathroom and make that larger, big enough to put a tub in. And that will kind of intrude into the office space bedroom upstairs. So that was going to go downstairs. It was going to be our third bedroom in the basement. We were going to have a media room, a recreation room, kitchenette, another bathroom downstairs, another room downstairs for a craft room. So we were going to remodel the entire house. And so we had him draw up the plans for us. But in the meantime, we wanted to extend from the pole building. We wanted to connect a sewer line all the way into our existing system. So to do that, we hired a contractor. They had to put in a small septic tank with a macerating pump and then lay a line along the side of our house that would go all the way out to the backyard and splice into the line that left our house heading to the septic tanks. So we had that done, and we needed to have the electrical upgraded for that pump. So the electrician came back and took care of that. And that all happened by the first week of May. It was all done. Then we wanted to extend water to the center driveway island so it'd be easier to water all the plants that were out there. So we did that ourselves. We got around, we tackled that paddock area, removed all the sand, the tarp, brought in topsoil, planted seeds, so grass was shortly growing back there. And then the gazebo in the backyard, thanks to our neighbor, we replaced the entire roof. It wasn't just the shingles that were bad, it was the whole roof area. So we replaced that entire roof of that gazebo. And in June, thanks to a recommendation from our electrician, we heard about a contractor, Perry Construction, P-A-R-R-Y. And that would be Frank, who's the main owner, and his semi-retired father, Nick. And we had gotten some recommendations from our architect as far as possible contractors, and we had a few out, but none of them really did anything for us. But when we met with Frank and Nick, we just knew at that meeting that they were going to be the contractors for a remodel for us. I mean, right off the bat, they let it be known that they just were only interested in doing projects that were done correctly by Frank's way of doing it. They're not interested in a facade type of remodel where you would just flip the house. This is going to be done their way, or we should probably try to find another contractor, because they just weren't interested in those types of jobs. So they gave us some of their past workplaces that we could check out. There's a resort out near Forks that they did, including the lodge, and we drove out there and looked at that, and the owner just would not shut up about what a great contractor Frank was. And then we looked at another house that he was constructing, and we drove out there, and it was kind of in the early stages. They were just starting with the framing. The foundation had been poured, and the footing foundation had been poured. And we just looked at the job site, and it was just immaculate. And so yeah, we just figured we're going to go forward with Frank Perry. So 2008 came around, and we noticed that, or we've heard that the septic drain field in our backyard wasn't the original drain field according to the county records. Previous owners took it upon themselves to put in a new drain field because the old one was too close to the bluff, and over time parts of it had peeled off. So we wanted to find out where was this drain field. So we hired a contractor to come out, locate the drain field, certify that it was functional, and submit all the paperwork to the county. So at least now this drain field is fully up to snuff as far as the county is concerned. The garden area was just nothing but a smorgasbord for all the deer that were constantly roaming around this place. So what we did is hired another contractor to come out and build us a deer fence. And there were 10 blueberry bushes inside, and in the past they had some bird netting to protect them, but the bird netting would the birds would get caught up in the bird netting. We didn't want that. So they built a cage around the blueberries with chicken wire. And the little tiny tweets could get in if they need to, get in and out. But the robins and the crows that would just take your blueberries and decimate them in a day, that kept them out. And the same contractor removed an old gate that came into the driveway, a wooden gate that swung open, and they also removed some blackberry bushes. They were cultivated blackberry bushes, or thornless, I should say. And that was really hard to get those out. The roots went down to China, I swear, but they got all that out of there for us, and so anyways, that was all done. And then came May of 2018. And what's that old saying? You want to see God laugh, just tell him your plans. Well, we had all these grand plans in the queue, and all of a sudden my legs started hurting. And after a while I went to see my doctor and found out that I had a sarcoma cancer tumor growing in my left leg. And it was an aggressive cancer, not the kind that it didn't look like I was going to make it, to be honest, at that point. So everything kind of ground to a halt at the end of, in May of 2018. But that's not where the story ends, but that's where this segment of the story ends. So we'll see you on the next segment. Thank you for listening.